أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. Tonight is the 3rd of Jamad Yathani, and it is one of the nights that is most probable to be the martyrdom of Lady Fatimah Az-Zahra Salawatullah alayha. I would like to thank all of you to participating in the martyrdom anniversary of Lady Fatimah alayhi salam. And as you know, when we go to funerals, usually who is outside of the funeral, usually at the doors? Usually the immediate family, right? And we see here that Lady Fatima died very young, was martyred at the age of 18. So we can imagine Rasulullah at the door, and he will be thanking you, and he for sure will not be indifferent to someone that comes to his daughter's martyrdom anniversary. Especially at this time when many people are dying, are sick, are afraid. You know, everybody knows their own taklif, everyone knows, but I know this, that when you are sincere with the Ahlul Bayt, when you sacrifice for them, when you come here with yourselves and your family and you're not afraid, you sacrifice for yourselves, you sacrifice for Lady Fatima alayhi salam, I know that Rahmatun lil Alameen, Rasulullah will not be indifferent with you in the Day of Judgment, will not be indifferent with you in this world. So I thank you. You know, those that are viewing online, they have their own responsibilities. Everyone has their own responsibilities. But you see, it is those acts of sacrifice that are counted the most. When you sacrifice for Ahlul Bayt, and you're telling them with your actions that, may my soul be sacrificed for you, Lady Fatima. May my children be sacrificed for you, Lady Fatima. May my parents be sacrificed for you, Lady Fatima. Tonight we're going to go over Khutbah Fadakiyyah. Important khutbah from Ibn Tayfur. In about 200 Hijri, he went over and collected this khutbah in Balaghatun Nisa. It's a Sunni source. It's not only in Shia sources. And in it, there is much wisdom, an abundance amount of wisdom in Khutbah Fadakiyyah. I recommend for you to review at these nights, to review what your mother Fatima Zahra said in such a difficult time. You know, the first part, I spoke last year about it, so I don't want to repeat it. The first part about being grateful in a different community, and the first part about Tawheed, about the oneness of God, it amazes you that someone whose rights have been usurped, that comes to the masjid, her abaya is dragging on the floor, around her are Hashemi, our Qurayshi ladies protecting her honor, and she speaks and uses so many verses of the Holy Quran and explains to us amazingly how Allah originated the universe at such a time period. You know, when we have speeches today, there's usually a team of writers for, politicians go through this, for CEOs. There's a team of writers, people that go through. But Lady Fatima, they don't write these speeches before and then come and present and just read it. She's just saying it. And that's the amazing thing, and that's the wisdom when you see words like the origination of the universe, how Allah created the creation without using any examples to follow. She starts with that. You know, when some here are engineers, you're designers, artists, usually everyone copies each other. A lot of times you're just copying someone else's work. Someone said something, someone did something, you copy them. Or if you don't copy that, you copy Mother Nature, you see. You see, for example, flying, and you see birds, and you want to, have, an airplane fly. You copy what happened to birds, and you apply that to aviation. Or swimming the same way. But Lady Fatima talks about the origination of the universe. That he originated things, but not from anything that existed before them. This God is almighty. He created things without any sample before him. And then it says later on, why did he create these things? But to establish his wisdom. She talks about the purpose of creation. So you see all these galaxies, all these planets. You ask yourself, why is it so abundant? Why is it so vast? So you can see Allah through them from this khutbah. So you can see the wisdom of God, His hikmah, putting everything in their own place. Then to bring attention to His obedience and manifest His might. When you look through deep space, you see the might of Allah. This is from the khutbah Fadakiyyah. This is the Tawheed section, oneness of God in khutbah Fadakiyyah, that the origination of the universe is to establish God's wisdom and to understand His might. But now we're going to the Prophethood section. How better to understand Prophet Muhammad? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. From his infallible daughter. Who else knows Fatemiyyah Zahra better than Rasulullah, better than Fatemiyyah Zahra alayhi salam? Wa ashhadu anna abi Muhammadan. She says, my father. Imagine, sometimes you read these, if a non-Muslim were to read these and say her rights were usurped, and she's giving a speech about Fadak, about what happened to her, and she's saying, my daughter is Rasulullah. They would at least say this, okay, Fadak, imagine, even if it wasn't hers or inheritance, you at least say, well, they would just give it to her out of being nice to her because this is the daughter of Rasulullah. But you see, even though it belonged to her, and Fadak was gifted to her while she was alive, and she has the right of inheritance, and she uses the Quran, get away from her. And you see the wisdom, it's not something about money or monetary Fadak. Fadak, you know, some of the armies later on, yes, true, it was an economic source and funded. It was a huge garden that has, could fund armies, yes. But the hikmah and wisdom of Lady Fatima is to use this to say, look, you are abusing Ahlul Bayt. You're abusing the daughter of Rasulullah. To make it clear for us, this is the wisdom of her. Besides saying that you take away the caliphate, but to mention that they are stealing from Fatima Zahra, to show how oppressive they are. وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ أَبِي مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ اختاره قبل أن أرسله وسماه قبل أن اجتباه. Here she uses three different words to understand the balaghat of Lady Fatima Zahra. She uses three words that when you look in the Quran, in the translation of the Quran, everyone uses these as the same word, translated as the same word. You have ikhtarahu, ijtabahu, wastafahu. Three words in Arabic. They all have been translated as sent, as all has been translated as chosen. وَأَنَا أَخْتَرْتُكَ فَاسْتَمِعْ لِمَا يُوحَى. For example, in the Quran it says اخترتك about Prophet Musa alayhi salam. Or when it says إِنَّ اللَّهَ اسْتَفَى Adam, Allah has chosen Adam. Again, even though the word is istafa or ikhtar, all of these are translated as chosen. And the last one, وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَجْتَبِي مِنْ رُسُلِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Again, translated as chosen. But see, Lady Fatima, she uses those words from the Quran. She uses Quranic vocabulary to speak to people because she is the mubayyin of the Quran. She is the interpreter of the Quran. And you see, when you look at the root words in Arabic, the eloquence of how Lady Fatima is speaking. For example, the word istafa can come from tasfiyah, to clean, to purify something. So the Rasulullah was cleaned, was purified. Then two, and not just chosen, cleaned and purified and chosen. Or the word of ijtaba, to pull and extract. Or the word ikhtiyar, or ikhtar, from khair, choosing something that is khair for people. So he has been purified. He is Rasulullah that has been is khair, that is good for the people. But now here, if you read it, the khutbah, and it says here that he has been chosen, but chosen before it says قَبْلَ أَنْ إِبْتَعَثَ. before he was chosen as a Rasulullah, before Ba'tha. So someone looking at this khutbah would say, okay, Rasulullah was purified, was chosen, is khair at the age before the age of 40, at the age of, say, when he was a child. Someone would say this, that he was selected before he was a child, he was purified before Rasalat. But actually she goes deeper and says, actually it goes, وَبِنَهَايَةِ الْأَدَمْ مَقْرُونَ. While creation was in Adam and in complete non-existence, he was chosen. Rasulullah was a prophet. She says, in front of everyone, her rights are taken, but she points out this important thing for us to know, that Rasulullah was Rasulullah before we were created, before there was any creation. As we have in the narrations, that Ya Jabir, awwalu ma khalaq Allah, nura nabiyyik. The first creation is Rasulullah. She is taking us to a journey to understand before the moon, the stars, all this was created, that there was Rasulullah. She's making people understand the importance of Rasulullah. And we have in traditions that Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt, they were the teachers of angels. They taught them how to do tasbih of Allah, how to do tahmid of Allah. As we have in Shia and Sunni traditions, that the Prophet and Imam Ali were nur, thousands of years before the creation of Adam. They were nur and light. So therefore, she's giving us a deep understanding of Rasulullah. Not that he was chosen right before. He was nur and light, and Ahlul Bayt were nur and light, as we have at Ziyar al-Jama'ah, around the Arsh of God. Then this light and nur came to us. So pay attention. It says, I am the daughter of Rasulullah. I am the daughter of that first creation of God. Then we continue in the khutbah. Ya ayyuhan nas, i'lamu anni Fatima wa abi Muhammad. Know, people, that I am Fatima and my father is Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Remember, when you talk about the fadail of Lady Fatima, not just because she is the daughter of Rasulullah, even though that is the greatest blessing that Allah can give anyone, but because of who she is by herself. Ana Fatima. And we said Fatima means to separate from tradition her Shia from hellfire, the followers from hellfire. Sham Fatima, Abi Muhammad. Take yourselves to Medina. You're in the Masjid al-Nabi and listening to this khutbah. أقول, it says here, ولا أقول ما أقول غلطا أقول عودا وبدءا. What I say, it is repeatedly and initiated continually. أقول ما أقول غلطا, and I say not what I say mistakenly. ولا أفعل ما أفعل شططا. Then she recites this verse of the Quran to identify Rasulullah for us. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا أَنِتُّمْ حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. There has certainly come to you a messenger from among yourselves. Grievous to him is what you suffer. It is hard for Rasulullah to take and to cope with how you suffer, with what you suffer. And he is concerned over you. And to the believers, he is kind and Rahim, Ra'ufun Rahim. She mentions this verse that has the rahmat of Rasulullah. Tonight we're going to be talking about this one quality of Rasulullah from the khutbah. That she mentions this verse that Rasulullah is kind and merciful. Brothers and sisters, when you look at divine mercy, when you look at the kindness and rahmat of Allah, you can look at the hadith when you want to understand how Allah's divine mercy works. The hadith mentions this way, that when you look at all of rahmat of Allah, when you look at all of the creation, imagine, I want you from the beginning of creation to the end, this hadith has. Allahu rahimun bi'ibadih wa min rahmatihi annahu khalaqa mi'a rahma ja'ala minha rahma wahida fil khalq. Allah has 100 parts of rahmah, 100 in this hadith. One of those is in creation. in the hadith says, what is this one part? So is one part in this earth, is this world, is earthly, is worldly rahmah. Yatarahamun nas, between people. Imagine, I want you to calculate right now, how many times yourself you were kind to someone else? How many times someone was kind to you? Imagine, start counting. How many times did you observe kindness? Now imagine counting this kindness from the beginning of people till now. How much kindness would there be? Right, you say million, a trillion, billion. Then it says, وَتَرْحَمُ الْوَالِدَ وَلَدَهَا. Gives examples. Gives the example of rahmah in this world, which is one part. This is one part of 100. One part if you include all the rahmah of mothers. Say the mother to the son, to the child. There's a lot of compassion, especially those that are mothers. They understand this better. They understand this much better. Look at, for example, in the Quran, when you see Prophet Musa alayhi salam, his mother, and that compassion and that fear that she had, that when the Munji and the savior of Bani Israel is born, and that the Pharaoh wanted to kill all the sons so that he wouldn't be overthrown. And you have in the Quran, وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّ مُوسَى. Musa, they say, is in the language of the Qutbi, Coptic, Mu, they can say it's water, and Sa is tree. That's where they found him, in the Nile. So the mother of Musa was worried for the fact that her son was going to be killed. They were killing everyone, all sons. And it says, in the hadith that he was born in a way that she didn't show any signs of pregnancy. It says to feed him, فَإِذَا خِفْتِ عَلَيْهِ فَأَلْقِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ. And then cast him in the river when you are in fear. وَلَا تَخَافِي وَلَا تَحْزَنِي. But do not fear, do not grieve. You're a mother, the Quran is saying. A mother is worried, especially about her newborn. And do not fear, do not have grief. Here the Quran says two things about promises to Musa alayhi salam. Inna radduhu ilayki, we will give him back to you. Don't worry. He will be safe. So when he comes back, obviously he will live. He will be safe. You're casting him to the river. One promise is that he will be safe. He will come back to you. And the second, وَجَعَلُوهُ مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. And that will make him of the messengers. He will be the Munji of Bani Israel. He will be the saviors of Bani Israel. So two promises. And you see from this the verse of the Quran, understanding how much Musa alayhi salam loved her child, that Allah gave her ilham, gave her inspiration, foreknowledge. The fact that Musa alayhi salam will come back as a Rasul, as a prophet. So imagine all the love in this world between mothers and children. All of that, calculate all of this. Fathers, mothers, brothers. Even in this hadith it says animals, وَمِنَ الْحَيْوَانَاتِ عَلَى أَوْلَادِهَا. How much animals love their own. And put all of this love together, and that is one part of Allah's mercy from 100. But in the hereafter, 99 times we have. فَإِذَا كَانَ يَوْمُ الْقِيَامَةِ أَضَافَ هَذِهِ الرَّحْمَةِ الْوَاحِدَةِ إِلَى 99 رَحْمَةٍ فَيَرْحَمُ بِهَا أُمَّةَ مُحَمَّدٍ اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. 99 other parts will come in the hereafter. So all this mercy you see in this world is one part. But 99 other parts will come in the hereafter. That is why you have in the narrations that shaitan will even be desiring Allah's rahmah and mercy in the hereafter. Because 99 of it will be in the hereafter. And when you look more, the mercy of Allah therefore is completely different than this world. 99 times more. And then you see this hadith, how beautiful it is. That when Rasulullah went to Mi'raj, you see that, Ya Abul Qasim, Allah speaks to him in hadith, Indi hadiyan mahdiyan, and speaks to him and talks about وَطُوبَى لِمَنْ آمَنَ بِكَ وَصَدَّقَكَ. Tuba, how fortunate you are and how fortunate are those that believe in you. And then he comes back because Jibreel cannot be part of this conversation. It's this conversation with Allah and Rasul. And he comes down, and then Jibreel asks him in hadith this question, why are you called Abul Qasim in Mi'raj? Why were you called Abul Qasim? And then he says in hadith, I don't know. And then a sound comes, a khitab comes to him, a speech comes, Ya Ahmad, إنما كنيتك أبا القاسم لأنك تقسم الرحمة مني بين عبادي يوم القيامة. Because you will divide the rahmat of me between my servants in the day of judgment. So that rahmah that we said in hadith 99 times in the hereafter will be the rahmat in the tradition of Rasulullah to the ibad. So that is the position of Rasulullah. You see that he is the rahmat of Allah. So when you talk about this divine mercy, and you see that it is in the hereafter, and many people sometimes, unfortunately, they have a very unfavorable opinion of God. And even though we recite verses of the Quran about the hellfire, yes, the hellfire exists, yes. But as our teacher, Shaykh Ahmad al-Mushtahid, he says, Allah did not open a kebab store. He doesn't just want to kebab everybody. He wants to forgive them. He's looking for an excuse to forgive them. And many people are confused. Sometimes they ask me, why are we created? Why is life so difficult? And then if you don't do this, you're going to be burned forever. You say, well, how do you know? Just because you have istihqaq al-iqab, you deserve punishment, doesn't necessarily mean Allah will punish you. There's no guarantee. He only knows himself. And when you look at these verses, how beautiful it is that all the rahmah in this world was one part, but 99 parts will be in the hereafter. Then why would somebody have despair? Why would somebody have yas? How come people do not understand Allah, and how we have in the traditions that if you understood the rahmat of Allah, then you would, weigh yourself, you would stand up with it, you would rest on that rahmat of Allah. So this is when you look at the traditions and look at this khutbah that Rasulullah is rahmatun lil alameen, we understand that we want to get divine rahmat from Allah. And this is the most important, you can say, for us, attribute of God. He has all these attributes, but why would he give it to us? Because of his rahmah he gives to us. So therefore you see how beautiful in the Quran it has, for example, قَالَ عَذَابِي أُصِيبُ بِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَرَحْمَتِي وَسَعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. My punishment I inflict it with whom I will, but my mercy encompasses all things. My punishment is for whoever I want, but my rahmah and mercy is for everyone. Hassan al-Basri came to Imam Zayn al-Abidin, and he was wondering how difficult it is for someone to go to heaven. It is no wonder if man is given salvation. Rather, what is a wonder is how he manages to end up we could say in heaven. لَيْسَ الْعَجَبْ مِمَّنْ هَلَكَ. Imam Zayn answers him. So Hassan Basri is wondering, says, the ajab, how somebody can be saved. But actually Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam in hadith says, is actually a wonder if a man is given salvation. Rather, not that what is a wonder is how he manages to end up in eternal damnation in spite of Allah's all-encompassing mercy. Don't be bewildered the fact that somebody is saved. Actually, you should be bewildered and should be ajab for you if somebody ends up in eternal damnation. That should be ajab for you. So brothers and sisters, we are here and it is the night of the martyrdom, one of the nights we can say of the martyrdom, Lady Fatemiyyah Zahra. And she speaks about her father and the rahmat of her father, that he is Abul Qasim, meaning he will divide the rahmat of Allah in the hereafter. So there we understand how important it is, the fact that we are here. How important it is to do things for Lady Fatima alayhi salam, because it's the daughter of Rasulullah. But what can we do to increase rahmah? This is an important question. How can we have Allah's divine and deserve Allah's divine mercy? What can we do? We understand rahmat is everywhere. We understand Rahman is, for everyone, and Rahim is specifically for certain people. But how can we get that specific, rahmat of Allah, that specific rahmat that only those that deserve it, the awliya of God, deserve? One, we look at one hadith. It says, تَعَرَّضُوا لِلرَّحْمَةِ اللَّهِ بِمَا أَمَرَكُمْ بِي مِنْ طَاعَتِهِ. Elicit Allah's mercy through the performance of the acts of obedience that He has commanded you. Do you want Allah to have rahmat on you? Do you want divine mercy? Then I'm saying this to myself and to you. Practice upon those commands. Fulfill those commands that Allah has for you. You cannot imagine that Allah has all these commands, and these commands we said are for ourselves. The person has to love themselves first. The person has to care for themselves enough not to harm themselves. And the worst harm is that harm of sin. Allah understands and teaches us these things so that we can stay away from mafsada, stay away from corruption. That is why He has made things haram for us. But then besides that, He says, I will make it haram so you can't harm yourselves. So there's mafsada in haram, there's maslaha in wajibat, there's good in wajibat. Allah wants to take away from you, brothers and sisters, all those evil things. In the khutbah of Lady Fatima, later on she talks about the philosophies in these acts of worship. He talks about the philosophy. Inshallah, tomorrow night we'll talk about it. So we understand that if we want Allah's rahmah, the first thing an abd does is do what Allah wants from you. It's very simple but hard to implement. Do what Allah wants from you. He has these wajibat, muharramat, stay away from the muharramat, do the wajibat. So that's the first way. The second, that was from Rasulullah and Tanbih al-Khawat. Imam Ali alayhi salam Quran al-Hikam, بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تُسْتَنْزَلُ الرَّحْمَةِ. With the remembrance of Allah, the descent of His mercy comes when you remember God. When you remember God in your salat, you remember God when you're at the center. Right now, you're listening to my speech, but at the same time, you're remembering God. When you remember God when you're driving, either to work, at home, or remembering God when you're doing dhikr, sometimes dhikr of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You live your life in a way that you're always remembering Him. And when haram comes to you, you remember God. When you get tempted, you remember God. Throughout the day, you want to go to work, you can remember God. You say, I'm doing it for Him. When you come to your family, you remember God and say, I'm doing these actions for God. Everything, every decision you have, a wise person, a hakim person, always thinks about their actions before they do something. I'm going to go to my friend's house. I'm going to meet up with my friend. Why? You remember God. Why? Should I go there? Should I not go there? Every decision that you make, the reason for it is with God. And if a person does this, they are living with God. They are living with God. They constantly are doing everything that they can for God. They come to the center for Allah. They go to school and educate themselves for Allah. They make this intention, even though it's general. You have a general intention, okay, oh God, everything I do is for you. But they also repeat it throughout the day. They repeat it. And therefore, when they do such an action, and everything is already for God, salat becomes so much easier. It becomes so much easier for them to pay attention in their salat. When everything throughout the day you forget about God. It's for yourself, for your nafs. You forget about Him. You're forgetful. You're ghafil. And you approach your salat, then it's a burden for you. It's hard for you, Allahu Akbar, and you just want it to end. But if the entire day you remembered Allah, and then you did this all for what? For sujood of God, for His obedience. Salat is manifestation of our obedience in the best manner. Then salat for us becomes something very exciting. Something very, that has a lot of, it becomes very joyful because the entire day we're working up for this salat. So the second thing, remembering God. Remembering God throughout the day. Remembering, you ask yourselves right now, where am I? What am I doing? Should I even do this? Sometimes you do actions, you forget even why. What's your intention? And you have to have niyyat for that action to be accepted. And the third is Al-Imam Ali alayhi salam, بِبَذْلِ الرَّحْمَةِ تُسْتَنْزَلُ الرَّحْمَةِ. Badl al-Rahma, giving rahmah, being kind to others. That rule that we have, irham turham, be merciful, be kind, and Allah will be kind to you. One of the ulama, they asked him, what would you do at the end of your life if you only had 30 minutes of living? Me, I'll probably do dua or zikr or istighfar of all my sins. But he said, I would go outside of my house and see anybody. He lived in Najaf, so mushtahid. I mean, here this doesn't apply to us here, but he said, I would go outside of my house. People, there's a war of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Whoever would need something, I would go and help them. I mean, here you can't. Not too many people walk outside. But that 30 minutes, he said, I would help as many people as I can. Those last 30 minutes of my life, if somebody needed help. How do you help them? How do you have rahmah? It's not only money. Sometimes it's time you put for somebody. Sometimes it's making dua for them, and they don't even notice. You're doing rahmah. You're giving them dua. You're teaching them. You're giving them knowledge. And they don't have to necessarily notice these things. As long as you have, a goodwill towards people. One of the biggest qualities of the prophets and imams was that they wanted khair for the people. They wanted good for the people. So constantly they're making dua for them. Constantly they're sincere when it comes to them. And they give them the best advice because they want khair. And that is the best advice for someone that wants to give advice. If you don't care about people, if you don't have khair, if you don't really want khair for them, if you don't want good for them, how can you talk to them? How can you guide them? You have to be able to love people, care for them, and sacrifice your time, your money, your effort, your life for them. So this is the third thing, is that Islam isn't a religion just about salat and mafatil janan and reciting. It is a religion also about society, about family, about others, about caring for others. And that is why Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam are the most complete. It's not they're just worshippers of Allah. There were people whose people would come to them, Lady Fatima alayhi salam. And if you have in the Quran, that people would come to them, they would fast day number 1, night number 1, they gave their own food for iftar for them. Day number 2, someone else knocks. They give their food for themselves, their children, they give it to them. And day number 3, some of the narrations say 1 day, some say 3 days. They give their foods, they starve. They starve for others because they care. So do you think on such a night, and when you're talking about such a holy family, that when you come in this situation, you come and you respect Lady Fatima Zahra, that they will not give you? Of course they will give. Of course they will give. They're the most generous. They're the most generous. Let's dim the lights a little bit now. So therefore we want to talk about Rasulullah, and Rasulullah being Abul Qasim, and dividing the rahmat of Allah, one person, and giving so much shafa'at in the hereafter until he is satisfied. What I'm going to recite for you is some of this is from the way that Lady Fatima alayhi salam, the last moments of her life, from some of our ulama, some of our scholars. So it might not be word for word, but inshallah I'll try to make it more smooth. When you look at Lady Fatima alayhi salam, the last part of her life, Rawiya annaha, we have in Manaqib al Abi Talib, this narration. Rawiya annaha ma zalat ba'da abiha mu'assabat al-ra's nahilat al-jism منحدة الركن باكية العين محترقة القلب يغشى عليها ساعة بعد ساعة. Lady Fatima alayhi salam is mu'assabat al-ras, meaning bandaged but not bleeding, those bruises beneath the bedding, for Ali wounds everlasting. A head wrapped that was youthful, a tongue parched, devout and truthful. Those men claiming God's approval were nothing but bold and brutal. Nahilat al-jism, meaning a mother, please walk steady. Oh mother, please walk steady. You're frail and your bed's ready. She is not able to stand up. A person that cannot stand up is nahilat al-jism. You can't leave us already. Lady Fatima at the end of her life is baqiyat al-ain, meaning your prayer rugs with tears dampened. The pains you hide, what happened? O Father's face so saddened. And muhannat al-duk, meaning you can't stand without leaning. The sides are now all now showing the months that you've been grieving. It is the final night of Lady Fatima alayhi salam. Asma is there, a pious lady, the wife of Ja'far al-Tayyar. They say that she was there and Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein were not at home. Kulthum, Lady Zainab were not at home. Ali alayhi salam is not at home anymore. She wants to die alone. She doesn't want her children to see her death. She doesn't want Ali to see her death. It's just Asma and Lady Fatima. So they say, she says, Asma, leave me. And she's in a room. And if you call me, I will answer. But if you call me and I do not answer, call Ali. Call Ali ibn Abi Talib. So Asma is there waiting behind the door of Lady Fatima. And someone that has ma'rifah is understanding what pain that is. To be behind the door and waiting for one of Allah's best creation to leave this world. So she calls Lady Fatima, you could say, and she doesn't hear anything. She comes and enters and sees a cloth on the face of Lady Fatima. She's not moving anymore. There some say Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein come in and asking, where is our mother? And she says, Asma doesn't want to startle them, wants to say this very, in a way, how can I say to these children that their mother has just passed away? She says, your mother is laying down, and they ask, they say, that how is she laying down? She doesn't sleep. This is Maghrib, this says in narrations, between Maghrib and Isha, this happened, in narration. And they say, your mother, they come in and enter, and they see their mother, Hassan and Hussein alayhi salam. They see their mother Az-Zahra after 95 days of suffering from these injuries and wounds, 95 days. As if Imam Hassan comes and falls on the chest of Lady Fatima alayhi salam. Imam Hussein alayhi salam is kissing the feet of Lady Fatima. Kallimini ya Umma, kallimini, speak to me, mother. Speak to me. Kulthum, Lady Zainab alayhi salam. They say the children run to find Ali ibn Abi Talib. They run to him and say that our mother has passed away. They yell, our mother has passed away. Here, my friends, dear Shia, dear followers of Ahlul Bayt, you know how strong Ali is. You know the champion of Badr, Uhud, Khandaq, and Hunayn. You know the person that slept in the place of the Prophet Laylatul Mabit without ever being scared. Here, this champion of these battles that was so strong, what happens to him when he hears that Lady Fatima passes away? As Ayatollah Wahid says, فَسَقَطَ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ. He falls, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam falls face forward on the ground. The champion of these battles. فَسَقَطَ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ. Therefore, you see that Lady Fatima alayhi salam has been taken away from Ali alayhi salam, and that soon in such a night, he will be very secretly doing the ghusl of Lady Fatima and preparing her for a funeral that nobody will be coming to. Here Imam Ali alayhi salam, he fell on the ground. Why? Because he lost his second rukn. He's lost his second pillar. Rasulullah was his first pillar, and now he lost his second pillar, you can say, so he fell face forward. وَلَا يَوْمْ كَيَوْمِكَ يَا أَبَا عَبْدِ اللَّهِ. But no day is like your day, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the son of Lady Fatima alayhi salam. What did you face on the day of Karbala? What did you face on the day of Ashura? That Imam Ali alayhi salam had one instance that he fell on the ground. But they say Imam Hussein alayhi salam had two instances. One, when Ali Akbar alayhi salam fell on the ground, when he was martyred, they say Hussein alayhi salam he fell off the horse. He fell off his horse, they say, and with his knees, he went towards Ali Akbar. The other was when Abbas ibn Ali was martyred. Imam Hussein, they saw Inkisar and the Wajh al-Hussein alayhi salam. They saw that in the face of Imam Hussein, that his back was broken. In Kasara Dhahri, he says. Two things for Imam Hussein alayhi salam on the day of Ashura, Ali Akbar and Hazrat Abbas. Ya Allah, we ask you, because of these holy names we mention, because of the dhulm and the madhlumiyat of Ali alayhi salam, because of the madhlumiyat of Lady Fatima, because of the madhlumiyat of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein and Rasulullah, we ask you, inshallah, protect all the believers, inshallah, from this sickness, inshallah. Protect all of humanity from this sickness, this pandemic. May Allah give a speedy shafa to all of those that are in the hospitals right now, inshallah. May Allah bless the souls of all those that have parted. May Allah bless the souls of all those that have died in the way of protecting the shrines of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. May Allah bless the souls of all those that have, with their minds and intellectually, defended the maktab of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Ya Allah, we ask you, inshallah, shafa'at of Rasulullah. Our sins are abundant, my sins are abundant. We need the shafa' al-rahmat of Rasulullah, Ya Allah. We ask you, inshallah, to understand and have ma'rifat of Rasul, inshallah. We ask you to have ma'rifat of the hujjat, of the Imam of the age. May your eyes, inshallah, one day see the reappearance of Imam Mahdi, the son of Lady Fatima Zahra, alayhi salam. May we be companions and soldiers for Imam Mahdi, inshallah, for the muassis and the founder of this center, and for all of those of your family members that have passed away. Let's recite a Surah Al-Fatiha after Salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in.
Sallallahu alayka ya Fatimyyah az-Zahra ya bint Muhammad. Salavat khat kariye. Ya qurrata ayn ar-rasul Ya Sayyidatana wa Mawlatana إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا دلا را ببریم مدینه ای مدینه رفتار ای کسایی که رفتین مدینه قبر گم شده زهرا رو پیدا نکردین مریض دارای گرفتارای حاجت دارای دست گدایی به درگاه خدا همه با هم زن و مرد بلند کنیم یا وجیهتا عند الله اشفعی لنا یا وجیهتا عادت به روزه کرده دلم روزه خان کجاست امام زمان مهدی جان عادت به روزه کرده دلم روزه خان کجاست صاحب عزایم فاطمیان بینشان کجاست قربان اشک روز و شب چشم خستت مولای ما آقا جانم شب نمیدونم کجا بر مادرت داری عزاداری میکنی به خوبا سر میزنی مگه بدا دل ندارن مهدی جان یه سرم به ما بزن ای خوب خوبا آقا جان قربون اشک روز و شب چشم خسته مولا جان فدای مادر پهلو شکسته چه خبر امشب خونه علی امام حسن میفرماید خبر دادیم به بابام علی مسجد بود بابام دوان اومد خونه 3 بار از مسجد تا خونه بابام زمین خورد خودشو کنار مادرم اومد کنار بانین زهراش داره از دنیا میره پشت و پناهش داره از دنیا میره کسی که هم دردش بود غمخوارش بود داره از دنیا میره اومد کنار بالین زهرا بسو رنگ پریده زهرای عزیزه قطرات اشک علی صورت زهرا افتاد چشم باز کرد دست علی رو با اون دستای سردش تو دستش گرفت قربون فدایت برم بی بی دو عالم چه کردی با دل علی ما امام حسن میفرماید بدن بابام میلرزید و گریه میکرد حق داری گریه کنی علی تنها کسی که غمخوارت بود داره از دنیا میره الهی داد از این داد از این امشب با علی هم ناله بشیم به احترام بی دو عالم چند لحظه بیایم چند لحظه تقاضا میکنم از برادران عزیزم بلند شیم به احترام فاطمیه زهرا تشریف بیارید جلو چند دقیقه مصدق اوقات بشیم انشالله اگر خداوند ثوابی از این سینه زنی و مجلس ما به ما داد، انشالله آید و واصل بشه به روح همه کسایی که توی این مسجد بودن، سینه میزدن، کمک میکردن، آشپزی میکردن، کفش جفت میکردن، دستشون از دنیا کوتاه شده، انشالله آید و واصل بشه به روح پرفتوح همشون. در رأس همشون آقای موسوی عزیزمون، آقای روحانی عزیزمون، آقای شمس عزیزمون، بقیه خواهرها و برادرها من یادم نی، همه اونهایی که توی این مسجد بودن و دستشون از دنیا کوتاه شده، انشالله همشون فیض ببرن. بیا علی جان دردم دوا شو، بیا علی جان دردم دوا شو، بیا که زهرا حاجت روا شد. مظلوم علی جان، مظلوم علی جان، مظلوم علی جان، مظلوم علی جان، مظلوم علی جان. آی بیا علی جان دردم دوا شو، بیا علی جان دردم دوا شو، بیا که زهرا حاجت روا شد. مظلوم علی جان، مظلوم علی جان. آی بیا میانه بستر نوا گرفتم، میانه بستر نوا گرفتم، ببین که دیگر شفا گرفتم. مظلوم علی جان، مظلوم علی جان، مظلوم علی جان. تنهای در گوشه خانه من نشستم، فاطمه مظلومه من رفته ز دستم. علی علی جان، علی جان، علی جان، علی جان، علی جان. آی من شد به چشم من شد اجل پدیدار، به چشم من شد اجل پدیدار. رفتم علی جان خدا نگهدار، رفتم علی جان نگهدار. علی جان، علی جان، علی جان، علی جان. پیغمبری که غم غمخوار امتش بود، روی کبود زهرا اجر نبوتش بود، روی کبود زهرا اجر نبوتش بود. ای خاک بر سر من، مردم شدند و دشمن، با بانویی که قرآن درس محبتش بود، درس محبتش بود. علی 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 جان، علی 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 جان، علی علی جان داد مخفیانه، تشیع شد شبانه، داد مخفیانه، تشیع شد شبانه، بیت الولایه او دارالشهادتش بود، بیت الولایه او دارالشهادتش بود. تا مقد مرگ پنهان، تا مقد مرگ پنهان، کرد از علی غمش را، تا وقت مرگ پنهان، کرد از علی غمش را، بعد از شهادتش هم دستش به صورتش بود، بعد از شهادتش هم دستش به صورتش بود. شب بر مزارش مولا، شب بر مزارش مولا، چو شمع می سوخت و روز آفتاب سوزان، زوار تربتش بود. از بیت آل طه آتش کشد زبانه، گویی شده قیامت بر پا درون خانه، در پشت در فتاده العم از پا دار فغان ز دشمن، آن گوهر یگانه. زینب به ناله گوید کشتن مادرم را، زینب به ناله گوید کشتن مادرم را، این یک ضرب سیلی، آن یک ز تازیانه، این یک ضرب سیلی، آن یک ز تازیانه، در پشت اونوی غم پشمان نشسته حیدر، مانده حسین مظلوم حیران در این میانه، حیران در این میانه. علی 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 جان،
دردا که پیر گشتم، در موسم جوانی، دردا که پیر گشتم در موسم جوانی، این موسم جوانی قامت کمانی، دردا که پیر گشتم در موسم، دردا که پیر گشتم در موسم جوانی، این موسم جوانی، این قامت کمانی، دردا که پیر گردون به خون نشیند، چشم کسی نبیند، ابر سیاه سیلی بر حسن آسمانی، وقتی که باغ می سوخت بلبل به گریه می گفت، آتش زدن ندارد باغی که شد خزانی، ما داغ دیده بودیم امت به جای لاله، هیزم به خانه ما آورد ارمغانی، دردا که پیر گشتم در موسم جوانی، دردا که پیر گشتم این موسم، این قامت کمانی، دردا که پیر گشتم در موسم، جای غلاف و شمشیر بر روی بازویم ما، جای غلاف و شمشیر بر روی بازویم ما، بر من مدال دادن در عین جان فشانی، بابا ببین پس از تو با دخترت چه کردن، خوب از امانت تو کردن دو قدردانی، رسم وفا چنین بود اجر رسالت این بود، تنها امانتت را کشتن دو در جوانی، دردا که پیر گشتم در موسم جوانی، این موسم جوانی، این قامت کمان، دردا که پیر گشتم در موسم جوانی، این موسم جوانی، این برخیز یا محمد اعلام کن به امت، سیلی زدن به یک زن این نیست قهرمانی، شب تا سحر نخفتم، امروز اگر نگفتم در روز حشر گویم با من چه کرد ثانی. سوز درون شیعه هرگز مباد خاموش، زیرا که داغ زهرام داغیست و جاودانی. دردا که پیر گشتم در موسم جوانی، این موسم جوانی.
الهی داد از این دل، داد از این دل، داد از این دل، کنار قبر زهرا کرده منزل، کنار قبر زهرا کرده منزل، کرده منزل، کرده منزل. بگو زهرا ز جا خیزد ببیند، بگو زهرا ز جا خیزد ببیند، که اشک دیده کرده خاک او گل، خاک او گل، خاک او گل. ز سوز دل کنم گریه برایم، ز سوز دل کنم گریه برایم، که دیگر نشنوم زهرا صدایم. نقش زمین شد فاطمه آه و ویلا، نقش زمین شد فاطمه آه و ویلا، از زخم یک میخ بلا آه و ویلا، همه از زخم یک میخ بلا آه و ویلا. نقش زمین شد فاطمه آه و ویلا، نقش زمین شد فاطمه آه و ویلا، از زخم یک میخ بلا آه و ویلا. دنبال حیدر می دوید آه و ویلا، دنبال حیدر می دوید آه و ویلا، از سینه اش خون می چکید آه و ویلا، از سینه اش خون می چکید آه و ویلا. با محنت و رنج و بلا آه و ویلا، خانه شده محشر به پا آه و ویلا. امشب شب اشک و دعا آه و ویلا، عالم شده دارالعذاب آه و ویلا، عالم شده دارالعذاب آه و ویلا. امشب روان اشک از دو عین آه و ویلا، امشب روان اشک از دو عین آه و ویلا. پیش حسین آه و ویلا، زینب بود پیش حسین آه و ویلا. حیدر شده بی فاطمه آه و ویلا، حیدر شده بی فاطمه آه و ویلا. اندوه و غم گشته فضا آه و ویلا، نقش فاطمه آه و ویلا، نقش زمین شد فاطمه آه و ویلا. از زخم یک بیخ بلا آه و واویلا. سلواتی خلق
صلی الله علیک یا فاطمة الزهرا یا بنت رسول الله یا قرة عین الرسول. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم بحق زهراء مرضية 10 مرتبه یا الله. یا الله یا الله یا الله یا الله یا الله. خدایا این قبیل توسلات از همه ما به لطف و کرمت قبول بفرما. خدایا قلم عفو بر جرائم اعمال ما بکر. خدایا زیارت عتبات عالیات. خدایا زیارت قبر آقامون رسول الله قسمت هممون بفرما. شفای عاجل عنایت بفرما. ثوابی از این مجلس به روح همه اموات خصوصا عزیزانی که تو این مسجد بودن دستشون از دنیا کوتاه آید و واصل بفرما و عجل فی فرج مولانا صاحب الزمان. السلام علیک یا ابا عبدالله. السلام علیک یا ابن رسول الله. السلام علیک یا ابن امیر المؤمنین و ابن سید الوسیم و رحمت الله و برکات. صلی الله علیک یا مولا یا قریبا غربا. السلام علیک یا معین الضعفاء والفقراء. السلطان ابو الحسن علی ابن موسی الرضا و رحمت الله و برکاته. صلی الله علیک یا مولا یا صاحب الزمان. السلام علیک یا شریک القرآن. السلام علیک یا امام الانس والجان عجل الله تعالی فرجه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. والعصر ان الانسان لفی خسر الا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. باز هم جهت خوشنودی آقا امام زمان، شفای مریضا، آمرزش اموات، اجماعاً صلوات بلند خواهد.